Welcome back, everybody. Today on Skyrider Limited, we're talking kite gear and accessories. So, like I said, welcome back, everybody. Today on Skyrider Limited, we are going to be talking about kite accessories and kite gear, but not necessarily specifically the kite bag tour sort of style. So, this is going to be the start of a new series, and we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into gear and accessories. As always, I am Jesse, and today we are at one of my favorite parks, Stage Fort Park here in Gloucester, just a few miles from my house. And it's one of the first places that I learned to fly a kite. And it's very much part of my history. So I thought, what a great place to talk to you about sort of getting started and choosing gear. So today I thought we would talk about kite lines. There are a number of brands still available, and there's a number of types of line. So I think we're going to start by talking about that. When you buy the most inexpensive kites out there, they're going to come with a cotton string. Cotton is not an ideal sport kite line. It's very stretchy. It has a very low break strength, but it is very inexpensive to produce. So it's going to come with a lot of your more basic, kites like plastic and polyester, single line kites, stuff like that. From there, the next sort of step up in grades is going to be nylon. And again, very stretchy, but inexpensive to produce. That'll be a braided line, and it'll be a little more durable, and it'll come with some of your more basic, single line kites up into sort of the middle price point, ready to fly stuff. You may also find it on the most inexpensive sport kites, but I would stay away from anything that comes with nylon. It's probably not the best quality for you, and you're going to have a worse experience, which is obviously going to kind of tamper with your ability to sort of get out and enjoy. That brings us to sort of the sport and competition grade stuff. There's a number of brands. There's some brands that used to exist. There's some brands that exist now, but they're all going to be producing either what's called Spectra or Dyneema, which are largely the same thing. It's trade terms for the same synthetic fiber. You find it in a number of places. It gets used in conjunction with other composite materials. It's very popular in climbing and hiking gear in the packlight industry. Sometimes you hear it referred to as Cuban there. That's Cuban fabric is a Dyneema product. But they're all going to be basically the same fiber. It also shows up in fishing line, which is important. Remember that. We're going to come back to that in a minute. So when I first started flying, the sort of most prevalent brand and the brand that my dad and I started with was a brand called Laser Pro. Laser Pro looks like this. I have a set right here. So it's predominantly white, though there are some other colors out there. I know red and blue have shown up recently. You can get that from places like the Kite Connection. They also used to, though I believe they've stopped making one of the more popular bridle lines out there, which was a Dacron over Spectra core, came in a few weights, and it was a good thickness and weight relative to its break strength. In general, this stuff is going to come in a variety of weights from about 50-pound up into the high hundreds for power kites. Choosing your weight, we'll talk about in a minute, but there's a good number of options, and you can get this. A number of kite shops tie it ready to fly, or you can get this in bulk and tie your own line sets. I'm not going to go into tying your own line sets here today. That'll be a future video, but we can definitely talk about that later. So after that, we switched to fly for a company called BBS Tech, and they made a line called Berry Blue Line. And as you might imagine, it was blue in color. The original stuff was predominantly blue with a colored trace to indicate its weight. But right around 2000-ish, the team we were flying with and several other teams helped them develop their sort of penultimate line that they would produce until they went out of business, called ES55. They also made a lower grade line called EL33. If you can find ES55 blue line out there, it is Wonderful stuff. It remains to this day the best line I have personally ever flown on, in my opinion. It's got a wonderful slick coating, very, very abrasion resistant, very soft, and reasonably light for its thicknesses. Again, weight ranges from 50 up to, I believe, 500 for power kites. Usually with the pre-tied stuff from the factory, the sleeving color will indicate the line weight. So you can see the white trace here indicating 100-pound. This is one of my quad line sets. And I think I've been flying this line set for 20 odd years, and it's still, it's been relegated to backup use at this point because I set up some new quad lines about a year ago, but wonderful, wonderful stuff. So with quad lines in mind in particular, but indoor as well, one of the more cheap, or inexpensive places to pick up low break strength, very light, very thin Spectra is braided fishing line. Here I have a set of red braided fishing line here that I use for indoor and urban flying quad, and the reason I use it there is because you're not going to do a lot of wraps, and quite frankly, if you break it and have to throw it away, who cares? It's cheap. It is not coated, so it's not as slick as the other lines here. And so it's not a great option for longer lines and trick flying where you're going to have a lot of wraps in. You'll very quickly get to a place where the lines start to bind from being wrapped up. Which brings us to what I'm flying currently. And that is this stuff here. So this is Climax ProTech, and it's going to be that orangey pink color. Climax is a German line. It's made by a company called Oakart. They make a number of lines. They make ProTech, Profiline, and I think 3 others. This is the second best line I've ever flown behind Blue Line. It really is really good stuff. The easiest way to get it pre-tied in the US, I think Jones Airfoil is the distributor. Personally, I have ordered from Jones Airfoil when I'm in a rush, but if I know I need, 5 or 6 sets at a time, I use Metropolis Drachen out of Germany and order it direct, and he's very kind to set up a DHL package and send it over. And it's relatively economical that way as long as I'm buying a number of line sets. You can also get bulk in this and, again, tie your own and sleeving kits. If you like. One of the things that I do like about this line is it's very thin for its weight, so it's really great option there. I can fly a stronger brake strength and have a little bit of extra protection without weighing the kite down, which is always pleasant and useful. In general, there's one other brand that I know is still in production, and then there's a couple that I'm not 100% sure on. So I believe Lyros is still in production, but I've never flown on it personally, and I don't know where to get it in the US. It's another European brand. And then there's Matrix lines, which were a ready-to-fly option from Level 1. Again, not really sure what the status is on Matrix, but I believe Level 1 USA still has some stuff, and you can certainly reach out to Paul and Nick and see what they've got in stock. And then the last brand, which unfortunately my understanding is pretty well drying up, and that's Shanty. So there were 2 forms of Shanty. You had Skybond and Speedline, notable for its white and yellow colors, and really, really popular, particularly with the East Coast quad line crew in the US. I have never flown on it, so I can't speak to it personally, but it was very, very popular. So if you're flying quad line, in particular quad line team flying on the line, that's going to be a real concern how slick it is and how well it performs in wraps. So obviously, the Speed Bond was pretty good stuff if all those teams like the Wings Over Washington guys were preferring that line. Hopefully they'll figure out their production and come back, but I don't have information on that. So let's talk about picking your weight and length. The first source you should always use for picking things like that should be the kite manufacturer of the kite you're flying. And that may go into your decision of how you pick a kite, but in general, you want to sort of stick to what the manufacturer recommends because the kite is designed in a specific window of line weight and length, and it's going to perform differently if you change it. If you put longer lines on than the manufacturer designed it, that's going to deaden the inputs of the kite. If you have shorter lines, things are going to happen faster. Those can be useful training tools, going to longer lines and slowing things down. I've certainly flown kites that were designed around heavier than expected lines, which are going to pitch the nose forward and change the behavior of the kite. There's a number of different things like that at play, and certainly things you want to consider. The second thing you'll obviously want to consider is your space and prevailing winds. I fly a number of different places and a number of different environments. Today I'm at a park, but obviously you watch my videos, so you've probably seen me at beaches. So with me and behind me, you can see the line panel here in my Prism launch pad. I've got a number of line lengths and weights from 50 pound up into the 250 pound window. And I carry lengths as short as 5 meters all the way out to 40 meters. Because I bring my lines in from Europe, all of my pre-tied stuff is already in meters, so it's just easier for me to learn to work in meters, and I've been doing it for about 10 years now. But for those of us stateside, basically working in about the 15-foot window out to about 135-ish feet. So a good amount of length there. For, those longer lines are going to be what I use for flying demos at festivals and things like that. My performance lines are going to be longer because that gives me a much more dramatic wind window to sort of perform to the whole field. But obviously, because we never quite know what the space and wind is going to be, that's why I've got to carry and, choose to carry a variety of line lengths and weights. So I hope you like this sort of overview of lines. One last thing before I forget. It always comes up on the Facebook groups. Usually there's some old hat dudes out there that when somebody asks about line, the word Kevlar comes up. Kevlar, you may be familiar with from movies and TV as the material they make bulletproof vests out of. And before Spectra really matured, it was a popular choice. The problem with Kevlar is it can cut through things very easily when it's in tension. And while it isn't extremely durable because it is, the fiber that they're using to make a bulletproof vest out of, it can be quite dangerous. I would not recommend, and in fact, a lot of festivals will specifically forbid the use of Kevlar on festival fields, and I would really strongly discourage the use of it around other flyers. If you're out on a beach alone and you have a reasonable expectation of control of your environment, then Kevlar can be a great option, particularly for stronger pulling kites. But so is Spectra, and while Spectra can also be at tension, have the ability to injure someone, it is less likely to do so than the Kevlar. So from a risk management standpoint, I would personally stay away from Kevlar. I think I have like 2 Kevlar line sets left from like 20-30 years ago, and at this point I don't even know that I would trust them. The fibers are probably broken down to the point that they're going to be pretty questionable of durability. So again, I hope you enjoyed this overview of kite lines and choosing kite lines. And if you have any questions, please pop them into the comments. And as always, thank you for watching and liking and following and subscribing. And we will see you out there, Skyrider.